What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel for another episode of the Ask Me Anything series. Before we get started, I do want to say I hope you all had a great holiday season, a Merry Christmas, whatever it is you celebrate. I hope the past couple of weeks have been good to you all. I do also want to apologize for kind of being MIA over the past couple of weeks. Usually around this time of year, I take a little break anyways, but this year it was a lot longer than I wanted it to be because I got really sick. I'm still kind of trying to get over that. My voice isn't 100% healed yet, but I'm pumped to be back. I'm really excited to see what the new year brings for the channel. I have a lot of big plans, so if you're not already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button and also follow me on all my social medias. They are linked down below in the description. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with this week's Ask Me Anything episode. The first question we have comes from Hatcher Kane 9839, who says, thoughts on Canada at the World Junior Championship? They got outworked by the Czechs in an embarrassing fashion. Gotta mention USA too in their defeat to the Slovaks. I've really been enjoying this year's tournament so far. I feel like it's a lot more wide open than tournaments in years past. We've already seen so many upsets. Switzerland is 2-0. Czechia is also 2-0, including that big win over Canada. Like you said, they definitely outworked Canada in that game. I think that's a massive reason why Canada lost. They try to rely on their skill way too much. I do also want to say David Jiricek, defenseman for Czechia, I believe 6th overall pick by Columbus in the most recent draft. He is an absolute stud. Columbus has to be very happy with how he's looked, not even just in this World Junior tournament so far, but in the AHL leading up to this. And as far as the Slovakian upset over Team USA, I really just feel like Team USA isn't as star-studded this year as they have been in, years past. Now that being said, Slovakia is still a team the US should beat, but on paper and just looking at their performance so far, the US just are not a powerhouse in this year's tournament. Even in their first win against Latvia, sure, the final score was 5-2, but if you watch that game was a lot closer than the final score indicated. But like I said, overall, I've really been enjoying the tournament this year. If you guys don't know, I actually am from Halifax, so Group A, all the games have been here in Halifax. I haven't gotten to any yet just because the ticket prices are kind of outrageous, especially for Canada games. There's a lot of scalping going on, people trying to resell tickets for like quadruple the price and that kind of thing. The next question we have comes from D&D Fear 5161, kind of a continuation off of what I was just talking about. Bedard has been absolutely lighting the lamp at the World Junior Championships. Again, he just scored his 3rd goal of the night and his 4th of the tournament. My question is, do you think that Bedard can go straight into the NHL and be a star? I think it's very possible, and also really appreciate the support and happy holidays to you as well. So yeah, we definitely have to talk a little bit about Conor Bedard here. He finished last night's game with 7 points, 3 goals, 4 assists, all primary assists as well, which is hilarious. In doing so, he tied a Canadian record for most points in a single game at the World Junior Championships. When he's on the ice, it's just so obvious and clear to see that he is better than everybody else he's sharing the ice with. Coming into this tournament, there was some talk about Adam Fantilli, who is having an unbelievable season for Michigan in the NCAA, and if he could potentially be an option with that 1st overall pick in the 2023 NHL draft, could he take that spot from Conor Bedard? And I know it's only been 2 games, and no offense to Adam Fantilli here, but the answer is no. Conor Bedard is going to be the 1st overall pick in 2023. I'm sure teams towards the basement of the NHL have just been frothing at the mouth watching Canada's first 2 games of the World Juniors. Even in that first game against the Czech Republic where Canada lost 5-2, Conor Bedard was still making stuff happen every time he was on the ice. He still played a great game, and I know I've kind of gone off on a tangent here, but to answer your question, yes, I do think Conor Bedard is going to be a star at the NHL level immediately. After this year, there's going to be no more CHL for Bedard. There's going to be no more World Junior tournaments for Bedard, even though he'd be eligible to play in the next 2. I really like what O-Dog said last night on the TSN broadcast after the Germany-Canada game. He said Conor Bedard isn't just a superstar in junior hockey, he is a hockey superstar, and I agree with that. I think this is a guy who's good enough to be in the NHL right now. Moving along now, next up, this question comes from Hayden Hallett 1271, who says, which standout rookie from last season has disappointed you most aside from Sider's offense? Guys like Jeannot, Jarvis, and Swayman have had a rough start to the season. Also, really appreciate the support. Aside from the names you just mentioned, I do feel like I gotta throw Lucas Raymond's name out there. He is scoring at a lower pace this season than he did last season, at least so far. I don't think he's playing bad, but it definitely hasn't been the explosive sophomore season that I was expecting from him. I made a video heading into the season trying to predict the leading scorer for every team this year, and he was actually my pick for the Red Wings, so obviously I had some pretty high expectations for him. Another name I'll put out there is Alex Newhook of the Colorado Avalanche. I don't know if you'd consider him a standout rookie from last season, but he was pretty good in a sheltered role for Colorado, had 33 points in 71 games. I had high expectations for him coming into the season. He was one of my picks as a guy who would have a breakout season this year, especially considering the guys Colorado lost, Nazem Kadri, Andre Burakovsky. They needed some players internally to step up, help fill those roles in the top 6. I figured Alex Newhook would be a prime candidate to do that, step in, maybe even be Colorado's number 2 center. That hasn't been the case so far. He's scoring right around the same pace he did last season, which again isn't bad. It's just based off the expectations for him that I had coming into the season. I have been a little bit underwhelmed. Moving on now, this next question comes from Yotes for the Cup 3842, who says, can you believe the comeback the Wings had, and what are your thoughts on Wallmans gritty? I rated 11 of 10. Also really appreciate the support. I'm still kind of in disbelief over that game last night between the Red Wings and Penguins. I actually didn't watch the second period. After Detroit went down 4-0 in the first period, I turned it off, started focusing on watching the World Juniors. I checked the score after the second period, seen it was 4-2, so I decided to turn it back on. They made things respectable, and then sure enough, they were able to complete the comeback and actually won 5-4 in overtime. Jake Wallman getting the overtime winner and then hitting the gritty as his celebration, which absolutely lit hockey Twitter on fire last night. It was hilarious. There was definitely a lot of mixed opinions. A lot of the older hockey fans were not happy with Jake Wallman, but me personally, I thought it was hilarious. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm a Red Wings fan, and I was just happy they were able to, complete the comeback and win the game. But in the post-game interview, Wallman did say that the guys in the dressing room love it and the kids love it as well, so he did it in good faith. I don't think he was trying to, showboat or anything like that. Fun fact about that game last night, that was actually the first time in the Red Wings franchise history where they came back to win a game after being down 4-0 on the road, which is kind of surprising considering how long they've been around. So hey, when you score the overtime winner in a monumental comeback like that one, the first in your team's franchise history, I feel like you should probably be able to sell however you want. This next question comes from No Hockey, who says, why did you change your profile pic? It looks amazing, TBH. Well, I'm glad you like it. I just decided to rebrand a little bit for the new year. Like I said, I do have a lot of big plans for the channel moving into 2023. Some of those plans are just being more consistent in terms of my uploads here on YouTube. Like at the bare minimum, I feel like I want to be uploading at least 3 times a week at the very least. I also want to start branching out and using some of my other social medias more. Like there's no reason I shouldn't be posting daily on Instagram at least. It doesn't take too much time to post over there whatsoever. So I definitely do plan on trying to run a hockey Instagram account consistently this year, post a couple times a day, the big news, random things like that. And also TikTok. I want to start uploading on there. I mean, ideally daily, but if not daily, then a couple of times a week, because oftentimes I find myself wanting to give my opinion on things hockey related, but it just wouldn't be long enough to make a YouTube video about. So I feel like TikTok would be perfect to do stuff like that, and then I could also upload those TikToks as YouTube shorts. So I do have a lot of big plans for 2023. Like I said at the beginning, all of my social medias are linked down below in the description, so be sure to go give me a follow on those platforms if you use them. Next up, this question comes from Rattar5973, who says, thoughts on the Panthers' disastrous collapse this season and who is to blame for their collapse? I feel like this isn't getting talked about enough. The President's Trophy winners from last season are not only not in a playoff spot right now, but they're actually under 500 at the time I'm recording this video. They are currently 9 points out of the second wildcard spot with just 1 game in hand over the New York Rangers. Things have gone from bad to worse for the Florida Panthers, and if they don't start to turn things around here soon, at some point it's just going to be too late for them. And as far as who's to blame for this collapse, I honestly feel like general manager Bill Zito should shoulder a lot of this blame. I really feel like he got a little bit too ahead of himself last season, giving up all those future assets for Claude Giroux and Ben Sherratt at the trade deadline, and then ultimately losing both of those guys for nothing as free agents. Obviously, the Matthew Tkachuk trade is still a big topic of discussion, and although Matthew Tkachuk has played really well as a member of the Florida Panthers, like losing Mackenzie Weegar has really left a massive hole on the Panthers blue line, especially considering all the injuries Florida has had this season. Aaron Ekblad is a guy that just cannot seem to stay healthy for a full season, so I really feel like losing Mackenzie Weegar and then not really doing anything to replace him was a pretty big step back for the Florida Panthers this season on the defensive end. And then another person that needs to be blamed, Sergei Bobrovsky is back to sucking after bouncing back last season and at least giving the Panthers viable goaltending. He's kind of just been a non-option for them this season, has a sub 900 save percentage, a goals against average north of 3.2, and although Spencer Knight has been outplaying Sergei Bobrovsky this season, he still hasn't been amazing, and Florida seems to have this fixation with starting Sergei Bobrovsky more than Spencer Knight still, even though Knight has has been the better goalie this season, so I really don't know what's going on there. I'm definitely starting to lose faith at this point that the Florida Panthers are going to be able to turn things around. I mean, it's almost 2023 now. We only have a couple of days left of 2022. It's almost the halfway point of the season already, which is crazy. The next question we have comes from a hockey fan 1083 who says Kochkov has been fantastic in net this season for the Carolina Hurricanes. The rookie goaltender is 10-1-4 with a 1.94 goals against, which is second among goaltenders, only behind Linus Ullmark, a 928 save percentage, which is also second amongst goaltenders, only behind Linus Ullmark, and an 11.2 goals saved above expected, which is top 10 amongst goaltenders. If the season ended today, do you think he's a finalist for the Calder Trophy or even the Vezina Trophy? Also, really appreciate the kind words. If the season ended today, I'm going to say he shouldn't be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy just because I don't think the sample size is big enough. Like, just for example, the three guys that immediately I would put ahead of him as Vezina finalists would be Connor Hellebuyck, Linus Ullmark, and Ilya Sorokin. The Calder Trophy, however, I definitely feel like at this point he has to be in that conversation, and he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. The Carolina Hurricanes as a team are playing unbelievable in front of him. They're just getting better and better as the season goes along. So if he continues to play like this for the remainder of the season, I would not be surprised whatsoever to see him as a Calder Trophy finalist. Remember when Carolina signed him to that 4-year contract extension after he had, 7 NHL games under his belt, and everyone was kind of up in arms about that? Well, now that contract is looking like an absolute steal and a genius move by the Hurricanes. The next question we have comes from Drew NYE, who says, most people I've heard say that Ovi will pass Gretzky in goals, but I've also heard a few analysts say 1,000 goals for Ovechkin. Do you think he could do it? It is pretty crazy how the conversation has shifted over the past couple of years. It's gone from can Ovechkin catch Wayne Gretzky's goal record to when will Ovechkin do it? Because it's gonna happen unless he suffers like a career-ending injury, which please let that not happen. But as far as 1,000 goals, I do think it's unlikely, but I don't think it's crazy that some people believe he could do it. I mean, this guy just hasn't slowed down. He takes such good care of his body. He's a guy who rarely suffers from injuries. As long as he stays healthy and has the drive to want to play and to want to compete at a high level, I think it's possible. And now for the final question of this week's episode, this one comes from GuitarPed6638, who says the Canucks seem to be trending upwards now, and the recent success is attributed a lot to Elias Patterson. He's the driving force of their offense while also being a severely underrated two-way center. Also, considering most of his points are coming at 5-on-5 and he hasn't heated up on the power play, do you think he deserves some heart love? Elias Patterson is definitely having a really overlooked season. I would say he has been one of the best players in the league as of late. I don't think he's a player anyone's going to view as a legit Hart Trophy candidate, like someone who could actually win the award, but I do think he could get some love, maybe even get a vote or two. I mean, he's almost top 10 in the league in points on a team that at one point during the season looked dead in the water, and like you said, they have been trending upwards, and a lot of that has been due to the fact that Patterson's been a monster lately. They're only 5 points out of a wildcard spot at this point in the season. If Patterson can continue to produce at this rate all year long, say he finishes with 100 points and maybe Vancouver squeaks into a wildcard spot, then I definitely think Patterson deserves some Hart Trophy recognition. So that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Ask Me Anything series. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to every single one of you who took the time to come up with a question and leave it on the post. Even the ones that don't get featured in the video, just know I read all of them and I appreciate every single one of you guys. If you enjoyed and you want to see another episode next week, then be sure to drop a like on this video. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.